Chapter 1375. The green-haired middle-aged man's heart turned cold from head to toe. Never in his wildest dreams did he think that such a situation would occur, when he was only here to kill a young junior. Now it's your turn. Go down and accompany your two nephews. The suppressing hell steel flew towards the green-haired middle-aged man, as Lu Ming's cold voice resounded. Lu Ming, I am the second brother of the sea-suppressing general. If you dare to kill me, the entire divine wilderness continent will be buried with me. The green-haired middle-aged man roared and threatened. I have already killed Hai Tian and Hai Yu. You won't make a difference. Lu Ming sneered. Let me tell you. I am not only a member of the sea-suppressing general's residence, I am also an elder of the Southern Divine Palace. If you kill me, you will be going against the Southern Divine Palace. The green-haired middle-aged man continued to roar. Seeing that the sea-suppressing general's residence was not going to work, he brought up the Southern Divine Palace. Southern Divine Palace? I will make a trip there sooner or later. Lu Ming's voice was still as cold as a knife. The green-haired middle-aged man panicked. Lu Ming was not threatened at all. He was extremely daring. He had never met such a person before. He was at a loss. Swoosh. As he panicked, a phoenix feather flying sword flew past his neck, leaving behind a trail of blood, and almost chopping off his head. The green-haired middle-aged man shuddered. Lu Ming, I beg you to spare me. As long as you let me go, I will go back and plead for you in front of my big brother. The green-haired middle-aged man started to beg for mercy. Ridiculous. Lu Ming sneered. Let me go. I beg you. As long as you let me go, I will do anything for you and be your slave. The green-haired middle-aged man became more and more afraid. In the end, he did not care about his face and begged. He did not look like a high and mighty emperor at all. Emperors were also humans. They were just people who had great power. They also had emotions and were afraid of death. Especially emperors. They were more afraid of death than ordinary people. They had great power and could destroy the heavens and earth. They had a long lifespan and could live freely in the world. Therefore, they were even more afraid of death. Clearly, the blue-haired middle-aged man was such a person. When he was stronger than others, he was high and mighty, looking down on others as ants. However, when he was faced with the threat of death, he would often behave even worse than an ordinary person. Kill. Lu Ming was unmoved. He spoke coldly as the prison-suppressing steel pressed down. At the same time, his second body attacked as well. There was no suspense in the outcome. Although the blue-haired middle-aged man's cultivation had reached the peak third-layer martial dominator realm, how could he possibly stand a chance against the combined strength of Lu Ming's main body and his second body? Not long after, the blue-haired middle-aged man was killed by Lu Ming with unwillingness. At this point, over 20 second-layer martial dominator realm experts had been slain by Lu Ming, plus the 5 people who were killed by Lu Ming in Dragon Emperor City. These 20-odd powerhouses were the top powerhouses of all the continents in the south of the continent of God's ruins. In this battle, the top powerhouses of these continents had suffered great losses, resulting in a period of emptiness. The power structure of these continents would change tremendously, resulting in a great battle between the factions. That being said, Lu Ming was too lazy to care about any of this. With a wave of his hand, over 20 storage rings were collected by Lu Ming. In addition to that, the corpses of the martial dominators were stored in the mountain and river pattern. These were all martial dominators. Both their blood and essence were priceless treasures. They would be of great help if given to Xiao Wan and the others. After putting the storage rings away, Lu Ming headed for the Dragon Emperor City. Outside the Dragon Emperor City, more than 10 figures were waiting anxiously. Xian Yanqing, Xiao Wan, Xia Zhuyang and the others. They were all the authorities of the Dragon Alliance. Although they were aware of Lu Ming's outstanding strength and his ability to create miracles, they could not help but feel worried, as they were facing experts from other continents. Lu Ming. All of a sudden, Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up as he looked forward. A rainbow light flashed and Lu Ming's figure appeared. Lu Ming, are you alright? Xian Yanqing hurriedly went forward, his face full of worry. During this period of time, Xian Yanqing had been in seclusion, trying to break through to the supreme stage. However, when he heard the news, he immediately came out of seclusion. I'm fine. Lu Ming smiled. Alliance leader, how are the powerhouses of the other continents? Xiao Wan asked. The others also looked at Lu Ming curiously. Lu Ming smiled and waved his hand. The corpses of the martial dominators, whether complete or incomplete, all appeared in the air, emitting shocking fluctuations. Even after death, the fluctuations emitted by the martial dominators were still shocking. This is... Xiao Wan, Xia Zhuyang, and the other martial dominators were all petrified. These martial dominators had only died recently. They could clearly sense their cultivations from the corpses. They were all second-layer martial dominators and above. There were 5 third-layer martial dominators. So many experts were dead. It was obvious that they had been killed by Lu Ming. They could feel their hearts shuddering as they inhaled deeply. At the same time, Lu Ming was becoming more and more mysterious in their hearts. Keep these corpses. I'll leave it to you to decide how to use them, Lu Ming said. Xiao Wan and the others used a storage ring to store the corpses of the martial dominators. By the way, I'll keep the ones that are useful to me. As for those that aren't, I'll leave them to you and store them in the vault. You'll be rewarded according to your contributions in the future, Lu Ming said. Xiao Wan and the others nodded. Following this, they excused themselves and left. Only Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were left in the sky. Lu Ming, what are you going to do next? Xian Yanqing asked all of a sudden. Xiao Qing, I can't hide it from you. Lu Ming let out a smile as he held Xian Yanqing's hand and gazed deep into the Dragon Emperor city. Even though the southern continents of the Godly Ruins continent suffered great losses, it won't end here. There are still experts from the 4 great celestial palaces of the Divine Ruins, as well as experts from the western, northern, and eastern continents of the Divine Ruins. These experts will also rush over. If I continue to stay in the Divine Wilderness, it will be a disaster for the Divine Wilderness, Lu Ming said in a solemn tone. Currently, the strongest cultivator was only a peak 3rd-layer martial dominator. If a 4th-layer martial dominator were to show up, how was Lu Ming going to deal with them? A 4th-layer martial dominator was significantly stronger than a 3rd-layer martial dominator. Even though it was not too difficult for Lu Ming to kill an ordinary peak 3rd-layer martial dominator with the help of his 2 bodies, he was still no match against a 4th-layer martial dominator. If a 4th-layer martial dominator were to show up at the Godly Desolation continent, the Dragon Alliance, the Dragon Emperor city, or even the entire Godly Desolation continent would be in trouble. That was not what Lu Ming wanted to see. Lu Ming, are you planning to leave the Godly Desolation continent to the Godly Ruins continent? Chapter 1376. That's right. As long as I go to the Godly Ruins continent and show myself there, everyone will gather there, Lu Ming said. After all, those people's target was Lu Ming and the Chaos Origin token, not the Godly Ruins continent. As long as Lu Ming showed himself in the Godly Ruins continent, those who wanted the Chaos Origin token would not come to the Godly Ruins continent. This way, the Dragon Alliance and Lu Ming's friends and family would be safe. That was Lu Ming's plan. This plan could be said to be very bold and dangerous. Lu Ming, I'll go with you. Xian Yanqing held Lu Ming's hand tightly as he stared into Lu Ming's eyes. All right, Lu Ming nodded after thinking for a while. Xian Yanqing's smile was peerless. There was no time to lose. The next day, Lu Ming gathered the higher-ups of the Dragon Alliance and announced his plan. At first, Xiao Wan, Xia Zhuyang and the others were against it. However, since Lu Ming had made up his mind, there was nothing they could do. After the meeting, Lu Ming and Xiao Wan sat opposite each other in the backyard of the Dragon Alliance. Senior Xia, I don't know when Lu Ming will be back. I'll leave the Dragon Alliance to you for the time being, Lu Ming said. Why do you say that? Xiao Wan was stunned. There's less than a year left before the date with the Divine Dragon Valley. I'm afraid it'll take a year to get to the Godly Ruins continent. When the messenger of the Divine Dragon Valley arrives, we'll have to leave for the Yuanlu, Lu Ming explained. Xiao Wan fell silent. After a while he said, Don't worry, Alliance leader. As long as I'm around, I'll ensure the safety of the Dragon Alliance and your family. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming smiled and said, I'll never forget what I promised you. After I've gained a foothold in the Yuanlu, I'll recommend you to join the Yuanlu sect. Thank you. Xiao Wan solemnly raised his glass to Lu Ming. After that, Lu Ming went to have dinner with Lu Yintian and Li Ping. The next day, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing officially set off for the Godly Ruins continent. In northern plains in the boundless ocean, Lu Ming looked at the distant divine wilderness continent with a complicated look in his eyes. Who knew how long it would take for him to return? Xian Yinqing stood quietly beside Lu Ming and did not speak. Xiaoqing, let's go. After a long while, Lu Ming smiled, took Xian Yinqing's small hand, turned around and left. This time, Lu Ming only brought along Xian Yinqing. Lu Ming left Tu Qian in the Lu family to guard the Lu family. After flying for a while, Xian Yinqing entered the mountains and rivers to cultivate, while Lu Ming began to travel at full speed. He had to reach the Godly Ruins continent as soon as possible. Lu Ming tore the space with all his strength and traveled at an astonishing speed. Traveling at full speed consumed a lot of energy. Even with Lu Ming's current true yuan strength, he could not last for long. However, Lu Ming had a second body. When the main body's true yuan ran out, the main body would enter the mountain and river diagram to recover, while the second body would continue to travel. Lu Ming's current speed was slightly faster than that of an ordinary third-level martial emperor. He traveled day and night without stopping. Within a few days, the Divine Ruins continent was already in sight. Previously, riding on Leishi Supreme, it took him several months. But now, traveling at full speed, his speed was dozens of times faster than Leishi Supreme. Godly Ruins continent, I'm back. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold as he rushed towards the Godly Ruins continent. After arriving at the Godly Ruins continent, Lu Ming found a place to devour origin stones and recover his cultivation to the peak. See suppressing Marshal's residence. I'll start with you. Lu Ming murmured as he tore the space apart and left. It was easy to let the Godly Ruins continent know that Lu Ming had come to the Godly Ruins continent in a short period of time. Lu Ming was the first to set his eyes on the sea-suppressing Marshal's residence. Not long after, Lu Ming arrived at the sea-suppressing Marshal's residence. The sea-suppressing Marshal's residence was located at the center of a huge ancient city. It was surrounded by palaces. Bang! Lu Ming appeared above the ancient city and unleashed his aura without concealing it. A terrifying pressure encapsulated the entire ancient city. What's going on? Provocation. This is provocation. How powerful? Is he a Nine Heavens Supreme? How could a Nine Heavens Supreme have such a powerful aura? The entire ancient city was immersed in an uproar. Who's there? How dare you provoke the sea-suppressing Marshal's residence? Die. How bold! At the center of the ancient city, terrifying auras burst out from the endless palaces. They were all auras of martial emperors. Lu Ming scanned the place with his divine sense and discovered more than 20 auras of martial emperors. Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. The Godly Ruins continent was indeed powerful. This was only the sea-suppressing Marshal's residence under the Southern God Palace, but there were already more than 20 martial emperors here. The Godly Desolation continent was nothing compared to it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Following this, several figures sprang into the sky and surrounded Lu Ming. There were 9 figures in total, 9 martial emperors. Among them, 2 were second-layer martial emperors, while the other 7 were first-layer martial emperors. The sea-suppressing Marshal's residence would not send out all of its experts just because of a single person. Where's Hai Pingtian? Ask him to come out and die. Lu Ming yelled. Hai Pingtian was the name of the sea-suppressing Marshal. How bold! Die. How dare you provoke the Marshal? Kill him. The martial emperors surrounding Lu Ming yelled. A few of them attacked Lu Ming. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming threw out 3 punches in a row, followed by 3 cries of agony. 3 first-layer martial emperors were blasted into pieces by Lu Ming. You! The other martial emperors were shocked and glared at Lu Ming. They did not expect Lu Ming to be so daring. He actually dared to make a move in the residence of the Sea Conqueror. Moreover, he was so ruthless that he killed 3 emperors in one go. They were sovereigns. Even in the Southern God Palace, They were high and mighty figures. But now, 3 of them had died in an instant. Kill. Lu Ming cast the wind essence skill and charged toward the remaining 5 sovereigns in a flash. Lu Ming's fist force destroyed all the martial emperors, regardless of whether they were second-layer or first-layer martial emperors. After 5 punches, the remaining 5 martial emperors were all killed. In the ancient city, the martial artists who witnessed this gasped in astonishment. Where did this fiend come from? He is so young, but his combat strength is unbelievably strong. He can kill martial emperors as if they were dogs. Boom! Boom! At that moment, the entire ancient city shook. A few earth-shattering auras burst out from the center of the palace. Then, a few figures appeared in front of Lu Ming. Their cold killing intent almost froze the world. The marshal is here!" someone exclaimed. The leader had a head of green hair, which was similar to the green-haired middle-aged man who had attacked the divine region. He was Hai Pingtian, the sea-suppressing marshal. Hai Pingtian's aura was earth-shattering, as if he was the ruler of the world. 4th-layer martial emperor. Chapter 1377. Hai Pingtian's LV4 martial royal realm aura was released, and Lu Ming felt a great pressure. Behind Hai Pingtian were 2 old men with LV3 martial royal realm cultivation. Whoosh! Whoosh! At that moment, a few figures rushed out from below and stood behind Hai Pingtian. There were more than 10 of them, and they were all martial emperors. Those who were not martial emperors did not dare to come up. Their auras alone were enough to suffocate martial emperors. Who are you? How dare you come to the Sea Conqueror's residence? Who sent you? Hai Pingtian stared coldly at Lu Ming and did not attack immediately. In the Godly Ruins mainland, not many forces would dare to come here. The Sea Conqueror's residence belonged to the Southern Divine Palace. In the Godly Ruins mainland, only the other 3 divine palaces would dare to do so. Hence, Hai Pingtian was a little hesitant and decided to ask about it first. Me? Didn't you send your second brother to catch me? I am Lu Ming. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled slightly as he spoke. His clear voice spread throughout the entire ancient city and rang in everyone's ears. What? He is Lu Ming? The most powerful person among the younger generation. Lu Ming, who has the chaotic essence token? He came to the Godly Ruins mainland. The ancient city was in an uproar when they heard this. You are Lu Ming? Hai Pingtian's eyes narrowed and a cold murderous intent flashed in them. That's right. He is Lu Ming. I saw him when the Yuanlu sect was selecting disciples. A voice came out from the ancient city. Apparently, someone had recognized Lu Ming. After receiving confirmation, Hai Pingtian's eyes lit up and he said, My second brother has failed. Lu Ming, I am impressed by your courage. You came to the Godly Ruins and dared to kill in the Sea Conqueror's residence. Today, you will not leave. Hai Pingtian's aura became stronger and stronger, and he was about to attack. Commander, there is no need for you to deal with the kid. I will take him down and avenge the 2 martial emperors. A LV3 martial royal realm elder stepped out from behind Hai Pingtian and bowed. All right, cripple his cultivation first, but don't kill him. Hai Pingtian instructed. Yes, Marshal, don't worry. The 3rd-layer martial emperor realm elder nodded and walked towards Lu Ming. His aura locked onto Lu Ming. This Lu Ming, the second master, went to the divine desolate continent to find him, but he actually hid in the divine ruins continent. However, he is also stupid to actually come to the marshal's residence to vent his anger. He probably suffered a lot at the hands of the second master. That's fine, it should be my credit. The thought crossed the 3rd-layer martial dominator realm old man's mind as his face wore a ferocious expression. Whoosh! An iron rod appeared in his hand, and he swung it at Lu Ming. Perfect, kill them one by one. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light. If Hai Pingtian attacked him, it would be troublesome. Now that this old man had volunteered himself, it gave Lu Ming an opportunity. Boom! Lu Ming stepped forward and punched out. Lu Ming's fist collided heavily with the metal rod. All the energy in Lu Ming's body suddenly erupted. The 3rd-layer martial dominator realm old man's expression changed greatly. His eyes were filled with disbelief, as if he had never thought that Lu Ming's strength would be so terrifying. Then his body staggered backward. Die! Lu Ming executed the wind origin technique, and his body instantly appeared in front of the old man, and threw out a punch. The old man gathered all his strength on the rod and struck at Lu Ming. However, at that moment Lu Ming's glabella glowed. Lu Ming's second body stepped forward and waved his hand. The phoenix feather flying swords whizzed out and attacked the old man. It was too sudden, and the old man was caught off guard. The old man was fully focused on Lu Ming. He had never thought that another Lu Ming would appear from Lu Ming's glabella. It was too late for him to dodge. Puff puff puff. The 5 phoenix feather flying swords penetrated the old man's vital points, killing him instantly. Die! After killing the old man, Lu Ming did not stop. He controlled the air-frozen bead, and a stream of green energy flowed into Lu Ming's body. Then he executed the wind origin technique, and his speed was extremely fast. Lu Ming attacked the other emperors. The dragon vein sword appeared and slashed at them. 2 first-layer martial dominators were killed by Lu Ming with a single slash. Everything happened too quickly. Only then did Hai Pingtian come to his senses. Most importantly, all of this was beyond his expectations. Lu Ming's aura was clearly that of a supreme being. A third-layer martial dominator was killed by a supreme being in an instant. By the time he came to his senses, Lu Ming had already killed 2 more people. You're courting death. Hai Pingtian was furious. He roared and threw a punch at Lu Ming. Hai Pingtian threw out this punch furiously, and its power was astonishing. Whoosh! His second body waved his hand, and the million formation illustration appeared. Dozens of defensive formations appeared in an instant to stop Hai Pingtian. However, bang, 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 a series of explosions sounded. These formations collapsed under the force of Hai Pingtian's palm. The strength of a 4th-layer martial dominator was too strong. The million formation illustration was a martial dominator spiritual weapon. The formations in it would become more powerful as the second body's cultivation increased. With the second body's current strength, these formations would be very useful against a 3rd-layer martial dominator. However, they all exploded under Hai Pingtian's palm. The second body's expression changed slightly. He did not want to make a mistake, but he did not want to make a mistake. The spirit fire between his eyebrows lit up, and more formations appeared in the million formation illustration. They were all defensive and trapping types. His goal was to stop Hai Pingtian for a while. At the same time, Lu Ming's main body used the wind origin skill to kill the other emperors. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming slashed with the dragon vein sword. No matter if it was a 1st-layer martial dominator or a 2nd-layer martial dominator, they were all killed with a single slash. In the blink of an eye, several more people died under Lu Ming's sword. Lu Ming's speed was too fast. These people did not even have time to escape. Damn it! Hai Pingtian roared. A pair of golden wings appeared on his back, like the wings of a rock. Of course, these were not real wings, but a martial dominator spiritual weapon. Whoosh! Whoosh! The pair of golden wings swept past like 2 heavenly swords. The formations activated by the million formation illustration were constantly collapsing. Hai Pingtian quickly attacked the second body. The second body took a few steps forward. Inscription formations appeared in the void to cooperate with the million formation illustration. In the end, the second body even used inscription talisman scrolls. With a wave of his hand, hundreds of inscription talisman scrolls flew out, and various kinds of energy poured toward Hai Pingtian. For a moment, Hai Pingtian could not break through the second body's defense. As for the main body, it continued its slaughter. Puff! The dragon vein sword slashed out and killed 2 more people. In the blink of an eye, there was only 1 emperor left in the void. A 3rd-layer martial dominator. The 3rd-layer martial dominator was scared out of his wits and did not dare to resist. He hid behind Hai Pingtian and escaped death. Chapter 1378. In the ancient city, everyone who witnessed this scene was dumbfounded. The sea-suppressing marshal's residence was in charge of a region, and its reputation was known for its dominance. When had it ever been so miserable? There were more than 20 emperors and all of them were killed. Even a colossus like the Southern God Palace would feel the pinch. Hai Pingtian's eyes turned red. Those were his subordinates, and they were killed just like that. He knew that he was finished. His position as the sea conqueror had come to an end. "Brat, I'm going to cut you into pieces." Hai Pingtian roared. The pair of wings on his back emitted a sharp light. With a sweep of the light, the array set up by the second body was destroyed. Whoosh! He charged towards Lu Ming with extreme speed. "Haha, Hai Pingtian, I'm not going to play with you anymore. Let's call it a day." Lu Ming laughed. The second body took a step forward and disappeared into the forehead of the main body. Lu Ming executed the wind origin technique and sped away. "Stay here." Hai Pingtian stared at Lu Ming and unleashed his cultivation to the extreme. A pair of wings flapped wildly and destroyed the array in the sky. He then turned into a ray of light and chased after Lu Ming. "Haha, Hai Pingtian, I forgot to tell you something. Your second brother has also been killed by me." Lu Ming laughed. The energy of the air-frozen bead entered his body. Lu Ming's speed reached the extreme. In a few moments, he had left Hai Pingtian behind. "What?" Hai Pingtian felt his chest tighten, and he almost spat out blood. He gritted his teeth and controlled his wings to chase after Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming had the help of the air-frozen bead, and his speed was faster than Hai Pingtian. The distance between the two of them increased as they flew further and further. In less than an hour, Hai Pingtian could no longer see Lu Ming's shadow. "Lu Ming, I will definitely catch you." Hai Pingtian let out an angry roar and reluctantly stopped. A few days later, the news of Lu Ming coming to the continent of Divine Ruins and killing more than 20 rulers from the sea-suppressing marshal's residence spread like a whirlwind throughout the continent of Divine Ruins and even to other continents. For a moment, thousands of waves were stirred up. Right now, countless experts were looking for Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was extremely daring and had taken the initiative to come to the Godly Ruins continent. Moreover, he was extremely high-profile. As soon as he arrived at the continent of Divine Ruins, he even killed his way to the sea-suppressing marshal's residence and killed more than 20 rulers before retreating calmly. This shocked many people. Many people began to re-evaluate Lu Ming's combat prowess. Some of the weaker emperors began to retreat, but those who were stronger than martial emperors did not give up. In an instant, terrifying experts gathered in the southern region of the Southern Divine Palace in an attempt to capture Lu Ming. Most of these experts were from the Eastern, Northern, and Western Divine Palaces. Whenever Lu Ming appeared somewhere, a large number of experts would rush over. Among them, Hai Pingtian was the most proactive. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this month, Lu Ming would occasionally appear, and then disappear secretly. His motive was obvious. He wanted to tell the outside world that he, Lu Ming, was in the continent of Divine Ruins. This way, the experts would not go to the Divine Wilderness continent to look for him. 10 people were sitting in a meeting hall of the Southern Divine Palace. These 10 people were the clan leaders of the 10 great clans of the Southern Divine Palace. They were also the 10 people with the highest status in the Southern Divine Palace. The 10 of them had gathered to discuss Lu Ming's matter. "Everyone, what should the Southern Divine Palace do about Lu Ming's matter?" One of them asked. "Of course we have to send powerful figures to capture Lu Ming. He still has a primordial chaos token with him." A rather handsome middle-aged man said. This person wore a milky white robe and had a scholarly aura. This person was the clan leader of the Wang clan, one of the 10 great clans. He was Wang Zhen's father, Wang Sheng. "That's right, I agree with Brother Wang's suggestion. Send experts to capture Lu Ming. As long as we don't kill him, it's not impossible to destroy his cultivation." Beside Wang Sheng, a person said coldly. This person was the newly promoted clan leader of the Mu clan. The previous clan leader of the Mu clan had joined forces with young Master Lin of the Celestial God sect to hunt down Lu Ming. They chased him into the core of the Divine Ruins and were killed by the headless true dragon rider. Therefore, this person was newly promoted. I don't think it's appropriate. At this moment, another voice sounded. Wang Sheng's gaze turned cold as he looked at the person and said, "Ji Feng, what do you mean? Why is it inappropriate? I know that your daughter Ji Hongqian has some friendship with Lu Ming. Do you want to help him?" Ji Feng, the clan leader of the Ji clan, Ji Hongqian's father. Ridiculous. Ji Feng glanced at Wang Sheng contemptuously and said, Now that Long Chun is in the hands of our South Divine Palace, the other 3 Divine Palaces are already jealous. If we capture Lu Ming, what will the other 3 Divine Palaces do? Will they join forces to attack my Southern God Palace? At that time, how will my Southern God Palace resist? His words caused the hall to fall silent. After a while, another person said, "That's right, I think Brother Ji's words make sense. We won't intervene in Lu Ming's matter for the time being." Lu Ming killed more than 20 sovereigns from the sea, suppressing Marshal's residence. Are we just going to let it go? The clan leader of the Mu clan was unwilling. Lu Ming doesn't need us to do anything. If he falls into the hands of the other 3 Divine Palaces, he will definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Someone said, "That's right, we just need to protect Long Chun. Moreover, 1 origin token is enough to enter the divine ruins. Indeed, let them fight for Lu Ming." Others also spoke. Wang Sheng and the clan leader of the Mu clan had no choice but to compromise. In the southern part of the divine ruins, in a wild mountain, this place was extremely hidden and filled with demonic qi. Unless it was an expert who cultivated the demonic path, very few people would come here. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing appeared here. "Little Qing, during this period, you should cultivate here," Lu Ming said. "Lu Ming, what are you trying to do? Don't even think about leaving me alone." Xian Yinqing pouted. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and said, "Little Qing, don't worry, I'll be fine. After a while, I'll come and see you." Seeing that Xian Yinqing was still staring at him with wide eyes, Lu Ming continued, "Moreover, I have a main body and a second body. My main body and second body will act separately. Nothing will happen. Are you going to the Divine Palaces to inquire about Long Chen's whereabouts?" Xian Yinqing was intelligent and immediately guessed Lu Ming's thoughts. Lu Ming nodded and said, "That's right. I plan to let the second body sneak into the Divine Palaces while the main body is outside to attract the attention of others." This was Lu Ming's plan. With the main body outside, he would attract the attention of those experts while the second body sneaked into the Divine Palaces and waited for an opportunity to rescue Long Chen. This operation was dangerous. Although he had the mountain river diagram and could bring Xian Yinqing along, Lu Ming could not guarantee that he would not be in danger. Chapter 1379. Lu Ming. Xian Yinqing's eyes turned misty as she clenched her fists tightly. She knew that with her current combat strength, she wouldn't be able to help Lu Ming even if she followed Lu Ming. Instead, she would only distract Lu Ming. At this moment, she hated that her cultivation was too low, and she couldn't share the burden with Lu Ming. She gritted her teeth. She had to work hard and keep up with Lu Ming's pace. In the future, she would be able to help Lu Ming. "All right, I'll cultivate here. You must be careful," Xian Yinqing said in the end. "Don't worry, I'll be fine." Lu Ming stroked Xian Yinqing's soft black hair and gently tapped Xian Yinqing's red lips. Then he drifted away. Looking at the direction where Lu Ming left, Xian Yinqing swore to herself that she would never become a burden to Lu Ming again. "First, I'll break through to the sovereign realm. Then I'll break through to the sovereign realm." Xian Yinqing's eyes flashed with determination. She turned around and walked into the mountain that was filled with dense demonic qi. After Lu Ming left Xian Yinqing, he traveled thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. Half a day later, he had flown a great distance. At this moment, his second body stepped out from between his eyebrows and appeared in front of Lu Ming. Then the second body's body started to change. Inscriptions appeared on his body, and his aura started to change. After a while, the second body changed into a new set of clothes and became a completely different person. After disguising himself, the second body tore through the void and headed toward South Divine Palace. As for the main body, he found a place to cultivate in peace. His plan was simple. Just like what Xian Yinqing had said, the second body would sneak into South Divine Palace to gather information, while the main body would cultivate outside. He would only appear occasionally to attract the attention of others. Currently, the main body was cultivating 3 types of skills. First, of course, was the embryonic form of domain. When the embryonic form of a domain was just condensed, it was very small. It needed to be constantly nurtured before it could slowly mature. When the embryonic form of a domain reached a limit, one could begin to break through to become a ruler. During this time, Lu Ming didn't stop nurturing his domain. He had made great progress, but he was still a distance away from the limit. The second thing to cultivate was the pure spirit body. Now the pure spiritual body had reached the peak of 70% and would soon reach 80%. The third was to cultivate 5 types of concept martial skills. The 5 types of martial skills were all at the 5th level, but they were very close to the 6th level. Once he broke through to the 6th level, he would be able to cultivate the chaotic concept martial skill, the chaotic flipping sky seal. What Lu Ming was cultivating now should be called a primal chaos domain martial technique. The primal chaos flipping sky seal was very special. If it was cultivated in the state of mind, it would become a martial technique of the state of mind. Now that Lu Ming had comprehended the embryonic form of a domain, if he cultivated it now and combined it with the domain, it would become a domain martial technique with astonishing power. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. The main body cultivated quietly while the second body rushed to the Southern Divine Palace. Soon, the second body arrived at the Southern Divine Palace. After a few months, Lu Ming came to the Southern Divine Palace again. The last time he came, it was to participate in the selection of the Yuanlu Great Marshal's disciple. In the end, he was chased and escaped from the Southern Divine Palace. Lu Ming's thoughts were in a whirl as he walked toward the Southern Divine Palace. The Southern Divine Palace is recruiting inscribers. Not long after entering the Southern Divine Palace, Lu Ming heard this news. Recruiting inscribers? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. After asking around, he finally found out why. The Southern Divine Palace seemed to be guarding something. They were recruiting inscribers to inscribe large arrays, and guard the large arrays to guard something. As for what it was exactly, there were different opinions and all kinds of guesses. Could it be that the Southern Divine Palace is guarding Longqin? Lu Ming guessed in his heart. The Chaos Origin token could allow one to enter the ruins of God safely. Everyone wanted it, and the other 3 divine palaces were also eyeing it. The Southern Divine Palace controlled Longqin, which was equivalent to controlling a Chaos Origin token. Naturally, they had to guard it strictly for fear that it would be taken away by the other 3 divine palaces. Therefore, it was reasonable for them to recruit inscribers and strengthen the guard. Whether it is or not, I'll go and take a look. Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he walked toward the recruitment site. After arriving at the recruitment site, Lu Ming found many people, all of whom were inscribers. The rewards given by the Southern Divine Palace this time were extremely generous, and it attracted many inscribers to sign up. However, many of them had depressed expressions. After asking around, Lu Ming knew why these people were depressed. It was because the inscribers recruited by the Southern Divine Palace were at least at the 8th level. An 8th level inscriber was equivalent to a spirit god realm martial artist. To become an inscriber, one's talent was very high. Therefore, there were relatively few people who cultivated the Tao of inscribing in this world. There were naturally far fewer inscribers than spirit god realm martial artists. Those depressed people had not reached the 8th level. Lu Ming walked forward and arrived at a counter. We're recruiting inscribers at the 8th level and above. Are you an 8th level inscriber? An old man in charge of recruitment looked at Lu Ming with a trace of disdain in his eyes. After Lu Ming changed his appearance was ordinary, but he was very young. How could he be an 8th level inscriber at such an age? The old man didn't really believe it. The Tao of inscribing was even more difficult to cultivate than the martial Tao. This old man was an exalt rank inscriber, and he'd spent a few hundred years to break through to the 8th level. But how old was Lu Ming? I'm an 8th level inscriber. Lu Ming smiled and didn't mind. Oh, you're an 8th level inscriber? Don't waste my time. Show me your spirit flame, said the old man. Lu Ming nodded, and the space between his brows emitted a silver glow. Powerful spirit energy suffused the area and drew the gazes of everyone. What a pure spirit energy! What a pure spirit flame! The old man in charge of recruitment gasped and looked at Lu Ming in shock. He felt that Lu Ming's spirit flame was extremely pure. If the spirit flame of an ordinary person was an ordinary person, then Lu Ming's spirit flame was an emperor. Yes, The old man felt that his spirit flame seemed to be under great pressure. "Is this enough?" Lu Ming muttered and put away his spirit flame. He used some method to conceal the color of his spirit flame, making it look like a silver spirit flame. Moreover, Lu Ming tried his best to suppress it, and only revealed a little. The color could be changed and the quantity could be suppressed, but the essence of his spirit flame couldn't be changed. He was an emperor, and he had inherited the mantle of a heavenly profound saint. Every step was perfect, and his spirit flame was naturally pure and condensed to the extreme. It was far from what an ordinary person could compare to. Yes, it turns out that little brother is a genius in the Tao of inscribing. I misjudged you just now, haha. The old man smiled awkwardly and registered Lu Ming's information. After that, he gave Lu Ming a jade token. Lu Ming held the jade token and waited at the side. A few hours later, the recruitment was over. A total of 7 8th level inscribers were recruited. Follow me to the place you are guarding. As for the reward, it will be paid every month. Southern Divine Palace will not miss a single origin stone. Chapter 1380. Deep inside the Southern God Palace stood a magnificent mountain that covered a vast area. The old man led them to the outskirts of the mountain. So many inscribers, such a huge formation. Upon arriving, Lu Ming scanned the surroundings and discovered that there were at least 100 inscribers around the mountain. Each of them was an 8th grade inscriber. The outskirts of the mountain were covered by a huge formation. Alright, this is where you will be guarding. There is a large formation here, and each of you will be a part of this large formation. You will need to constantly inject your mental strength to maintain the operation of the large formation. How is it? Simple, right? The old man said. The crowd nodded their heads. It was indeed simple, as they only needed to insert their spiritual energy to maintain the formation. However, I have to warn you that this is a forbidden area of the Southern God Palace. You should stay at the outskirts and don't wander around, especially deep inside the mountain. If you are discovered by the experts of the Southern God Palace, no one will be able to save you. The recruitment elder changed his tone and warned everyone. The others were startled and nodded their heads. However, Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He had a strong feeling that Long Chun was most likely imprisoned here. They were only in charge of the outskirts of the mountain. It was impossible for outsiders to be responsible for the inner parts of the mountain. The old man gave them a few more reminders and told them the areas they were responsible for before he left. Lu Ming sat on a boulder with his legs crossed and carefully observed the surroundings with his spiritual energy. There were many experts around the mountain, thus Lu Ming did not dare to act recklessly. However, since Lu Ming had ignited 2 spirit lamps, and his control of his spiritual energy had reached the perfection realm, even a 3rd-layer martial dominator realm cultivator would not be able to detect his spiritual energy, unless the person was a 4th-layer martial dominator realm expert. However, 4th-layer martial dominators were considered peak experts even in the Godly Ruins continent, thus there were not many of them. As his spiritual energy spread further, the outskirts of the mountain were soon covered by Lu Ming's spiritual energy. The outskirts of the mountain were protected by a huge formation with the functions of sensing, attacking, and defending. Once someone intruded into the formation, it would immediately alert the others, allowing them to attack at the same time. However, Lu Ming soon learned all the secrets of this grand formation. This formation was huge and required so many 8th-level inscriptionists to control it at the same time. Its power was shocking, but it also had many flaws. Lu Ming could casually find dozens of them. Of course, this was in Lu Ming's opinion. To other 8th-level inscriptionists, they would only feel that this grand formation was profound, grand, and unbelievably complicated. In the depths of the mountain, Lu Ming didn't use his psychic power to cover the area. He was afraid that there would be experts guarding the depths of the mountain. Soon night fell. At this moment Lu Ming moved. A figure that looked exactly like Lu Ming appeared where he had been standing. This figure had been created by Lu Ming's array formation, and his figure was heading towards the depths of the mountain. To Lu Ming, the outer array was like a flat road. It did not pose any obstruction. After passing through the array, Lu Ming arrived at the depths of the mountain. At this point Lu Ming stopped. He raised his eyes and looked into the depths of the mountain. In his eyes, there seemed to be array formations rotating. What a wonderful array formation! Soon, everything in the depths of the mountain appeared before Lu Ming's eyes. At the bottom of the mountain, there was a cave. Clearly, there was another world in the mountain. And on the road leading to this cave, there was a grand formation inscribed. This kind of grand formation was extremely mysterious. It's actually the Qi Meridian Chain Grand Formation. After looking at it for a while, Lu Ming frowned. He felt that it was a little tricky. The Qi Meridian Chain Grand Formation was a pure sensing grand formation. It had no offensive or defensive power. It only had sensing ability. As long as others walked into the Qi Meridian Chain Grand Formation, the Grand Formation would send out an alarm. Of course, Lu Ming could easily break an ordinary sensing Grand Formation. However, the Qi Meridian Chain Grand Formation in front of him was difficult for even Lu Ming to break. Lu Ming could see that there were a total of 10 grand formations in front of him. They were interlocked, and each of these 10 grand formations was locked onto a kind of aura. 10 grand formations meant that there were 10 kinds of auras, which were also the auras of 10 people. If one wanted to break this kind of grand formation, they would not be able to sense it if they walked in. The only way was to use the auras of these 10 people to refine a token to break the formation. Only then could they quietly walk in. Otherwise, no matter how strong the formation was, if one walked in, the formation would sense it and send out an alarm. Obviously, if Long Chun was imprisoned in this mountain, as long as the alarm was sent out, the others in the mountain would move Long Chun away. Even if they forced their way in, they would not be able to save Long Chun. If one wanted to quietly enter the mountain, they had to break the Qi Meridian Chain Grand Formation. But how to break it? The key was that Lu Ming did not know whose auras this was. How could he get the auras of these 10 people? Lu Ming took a closer look before he retreated and returned to his original position. Southern Divine Palace really values the Chaos Yuan token. With such a tight defense, it will not be easy to save Long Chun. Lu Ming thought in his heart, if I want to break this Qi Meridian Chain Grand Formation and refine a token, I must have the auras of those 10 people. But which 10 people are they? I heard that Southern Divine Palace is dominated by the 10 great families. Could it be that the auras of those 10 people are the patriarchs of the 10 great families? Lu Ming guessed in his heart. This was the most likely possibility, but there was no guarantee. Lu Ming planned to find an opportunity to secretly investigate. For the next 7 days, Lu Ming thought about this plan, but to no avail. On the night of the 8th day, Lu Ming's expression suddenly changed. He saw a figure flickering in the mountain. It was extremely fast, and there was no movement at all. Not even a shadow could be seen. Those 8th level inscriptionists did not notice it. If not for Lu Ming's strong cultivation, it would have been difficult to discover it. This figure seemed to be very familiar with the outer array. It shuttled through the array and headed towards the inner part of the mountain. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Then he moved and followed the figure into the mountain. After passing through the array, the figure stopped. This figure was wrapped in a black robe. Her appearance could not be seen clearly, but her figure was clearly a woman. Long Chun, I know that Southern Divine Palace has gone too far by treating you like this. Unfortunately, there is nothing I can do. The figure sighed softly. Her voice was very soft, but Lu Ming still heard it. This is Ji Hongchen. Lu Ming's eyes moved. This voice was clearly Ji Hongchen's voice. Lu Ming could not remember it wrongly. Ji Hongchen did not stay for long. He turned and left. Lu Ming followed behind Ji Hongchen. Should I ask Ji Hongchen for help? Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind. Although Lu Ming and Ji Hongchen were not very close, Lu Ming still approved of Ji Hongchen's character. And from the looks of it, Ji Hongchen seemed to want to help Long Chun, but there was nothing he could do. Lu Ming pondered and followed Ji Hongchen out of the mountain. They went to other areas of Southern Divine Palace. Chapter 1381. Ji Hongchen scanned her surroundings and released her spiritual awareness. She seemed to have discovered that someone was following her. What a strong spiritual awareness. Is this a woman's sixth sense? Lu Ming laughed in his heart. Ji Hongchen didn't discover him. Perhaps it was her innate spiritual awareness that made her stop scolding him, because she felt that someone was following her. However, Ji Hongchen didn't discover anyone when she scanned with her spiritual awareness. That's strange. Did I sense wrongly? Ji Hongchen muttered. She thought that she was hallucinating. Just as she was about to move forward, her pupils suddenly shrank, and a trace of shock appeared in her eyes. That was because a young man had appeared in front of her without her noticing. He was looking at her with a faint smile. She was horrified and instinctively retreated. Who are you? Were you following me just now? Ji Hongchen scolded. Since Lu Ming was in disguise, Ji Hongchen naturally couldn't recognize Lu Ming. Miss Ji, how have you been? Do you still remember me? Lu Ming said. At the same time, his body began to transform into Lu Ming's original appearance. After some thought, Lu Ming decided to give it his all and come out to meet Ji Hongchen. Lu Ming indeed needed help. He knew that Ji Hongchen was one of the top 10 families in the Southern Divine Palace. She was the daughter of the Ji family's patriarch. If Ji Hongchen could help him, it would be much more convenient. Lu Ming, it's you? Ji Hongchen exclaimed softly after seeing Lu Ming's true appearance. She found it hard to believe. Now all the experts in the world were looking for Lu Ming and wanted to capture him. However, Lu Ming actually came to the Southern Divine Palace. Who would have thought? I'm honored that Miss Ji still remembers me. Lu Ming smiled. Ji Hongchen removed the black mask on her head, revealing her beautiful face. She sized up Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, you're really daring. You actually came to the Southern Divine Palace, and even dared to appear in front of me. Aren't you afraid that I'll get someone to take you down? I believe that Miss Ji isn't that kind of person. Lu Ming smiled. Ripples appeared in Ji Hongchen's eyes as a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then he rolled his eyes and said, Lu Ming, there must be something you want from me, right? That's right. Lu Ming needs Miss Ji's help with something. Lu Ming's expression turned solemn as he cupped his fists and said, Oh, tell me. I may not be able to help you. Ji Hongchen said. Miss Ji, is Long Chun imprisoned in that mountain? Lu Ming asked. That's right. Long Chun is imprisoned inside. Lu Ming, you want to save Long Chun, right? I advise you to give up. You won't be able to save him. The defense is too tight. Ji Hongchen sighed. Although the meridian chain formation is profound, it's not impossible to break. Lu Ming said. You know about the Qi meridian chain array? Ji Hongchen was shocked. Then he said, Since you know about the Qi meridian chain array, you should know how difficult it is to enter it. The auras of the 10 people in the Qi meridian chain array are the patriarchs of the 10 great clans of the Southern God Palace, right? Lu Ming continued to ask. That's right. Ji Hongchen did not hide anything and nodded. Therefore, Lu Ming has something that I need Miss Ji's help with. Lu Ming said. Don't tell me you want me to help you obtain the auras of the patriarchs of the 10 great clans? Ji Hongchen's beautiful eyes widened. That's right. With Miss Ji's identity, it shouldn't be too difficult. Lu Ming nodded and said, Aura. Once a person came into contact with something, they would leave their aura behind. For example, clothes that were worn, bowls and chopsticks that were used, or even human hair would leave their aura behind. As long as he could obtain these, it would be enough. The patriarchs of the 10 great clans of the Southern God Palace were all 4th-layer martial dominator realm experts. Ordinary people would not be able to obtain their auras, but Ji Hongchen was different. Her father was a patriarch of a clan. With her identity, it was possible for her to obtain the auras of the 10 great clans. Lu Ming, although I think it's unfair for the Southern God Palace to treat Long Chun and you this way, it's not easy to save Long Chun. Even if you have the auras of the 10 great clans, can you refine a formation-breaking badge? The method of refining a formation-breaking badge is top secret. Even I won't be able to obtain it. Ji Hongchen said. Don't worry, Miss Ji. As long as I have the auras of the 10 great clans, I'll be able to refine a formation-breaking badge. Lu Ming said confidently. Really? Ji Hongchen found it hard to believe. Could it be that apart from having a great martial skill talent, Lu Ming was also a powerful inscription master? From what she knew, Even if he knew how to refine a formation-breaking badge, he would not be able to do it without the cultivation of a ninth-grade inscription master. Of course it's true. As soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling golden spiritual fire danced between Lu Ming's eyebrows. Ji Hongchen's beautiful eyes suddenly widened. Her mouth was slightly agape, and she was in disbelief. Lu Ming is really a ninth-grade inscription master? Does this mean that Lu Ming didn't use his full strength when the Yuanlu Great Sect was selecting their disciples? He was able to suppress everyone with his martial skill alone, and his path of inscription had reached the level of an emperor. What a monster! Ji Hongchen cried in her heart. Miss Ji. Lu Ming retracted his spiritual fire and called out to her a few times. Ji Hongchen finally recovered from her shock. Her beautiful eyes blinked as she stared at Lu Ming. Her stare made Lu Ming's hair stand on end. What a monster! Ji Hongchen muttered in the end, which made Lu Ming roll his eyes. Alright, I promise you. I'll help you get the auras of the 10 great clans. Ji Hongchen nodded after thinking for a while. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He said, Miss Ji, Lu Ming has another question. Logically speaking, Long Chun and I have been chosen by the Dragon God Valley and are disciples of the Dragon God Valley. Why would the Southern Divine Palace and the other 3 divine palaces be so bold to attack us? You don't seem to have any scruples at all. Lu Ming asked the biggest question in his heart. This question had been bothering Lu Ming for a long time. He and Long Chun were disciples of the Dragon God Valley. The people of the Godly Ruins continent dared to do this to them. Weren't they afraid that the experts of the Dragon God Valley would come and kill them? It would make sense if they attacked secretly, but they were doing it openly now. Lu Ming, you don't know yet, right? A few months ago, the Heavenly Divine Sect sent news that the Dragon God Valley of the Yuanlu continent was destroyed. Ji Hongchen revealed a shocking piece of news. Destroyed? Lu Ming was dumbfounded. The Dragon God Valley of the Yuanlu continent was destroyed. In that case, everything made sense. If the Dragon God Valley was destroyed, the experts of the Godly Ruins continent wouldn't have any scruples. Lu Ming was also speechless. It wasn't easy for him to join a great sect in the Yuanlu continent, but it was destroyed before he could even join the sect. It seemed like the Yuanlu continent was more dangerous than the Godly Ruins continent. A great sect was destroyed just like that. Chapter 1382. Thank you, Miss Ji. After a while, Lu Ming took a deep breath to calm himself down and thanked Ji Hongchen. Today, she had solved many of Lu Ming's doubts. You're welcome. I'll leave first. I'll come find you when I find the auras of the 10 great clans patriarchs. Ji Hongchen said. Before she left, Ji Hongchen blinked and looked at Lu Ming. Do you really trust me? Aren't you afraid that I'll find an expert to take you down? If that's the case, the 2 origin tokens will be in our hands. Lu Ming smiled and said, Didn't I just say it? I trust you, Miss Ji. Ji Hongchen cracked a smile and flew away. After Ji Hongchen left, Lu Ming changed his appearance again and returned to the outskirts of the mountain, where he was supposed to guard. Unexpectedly, Ji Hongchen came to find Lu Ming the next night. Lu Ming, this is the teacup that my father drank from. I believe it'll be useful to you. Ji Hongchen handed a jade teacup to Lu Ming. Lu Ming received it happily and said, Thank you, Miss Ji. Ji Hongchen smiled faintly, but didn't say anything else as he drifted away. Then, the detailed diagram of the Qi Meridian Chain Formation appeared in Lu Ming's mind. During this period of time, he had already analyzed all the mysteries of the Qi Meridian Chain Formation and imprinted them in his mind. Then, he took out a jade talisman and extracted the aura of the Ji clan from the teacup. He absorbed it into the jade talisman and started to inscribe inscriptions on it. 3 days later, the first formation-breaking token was successfully refined. As long as one held this token and entered the formation corresponding to the Ji clan patriarch, the formation would not send out an alarm. Unfortunately, the Qi Meridian Chain Formation required 10 tokens. It would be useless if one was missing. A few days later, Ji Hongchen sent over the aura of the second patriarch. Lu Ming, some of the patriarchs are on good terms with my father, so it's easy for me to get them. However, some of the patriarchs are against my father, so it'll be troublesome. I'll need some time. This was what Ji Hongqian told Lu Ming before he left. Lu Ming could understand. After all, it was the aura of a fourth-layer martial dominator realm expert. It was not easy to acquire the aura of the 10 great clans of the Southern God Palace. Lu Ming could only refine the aura in his hand into a token. Other than guarding the formation, Lu Ming cultivated by himself and strengthened his spirit fire. So he didn't waste any time. Time passed day by day. In the outside world, apart from cultivating, Lu Ming's true body would occasionally appear to attract the attention of others. More and more experts joined the hunt for Lu Ming. In addition to the experts from the other 3 divine palaces, the experts from the other continents also came to the divine ruins. However, Lu Ming was proficient in illusionary aura techniques and could change his aura. Moreover, his battle prowess was formidable. Every time he appeared, he would easily escape after stirring up the situation. Just like that, 4 months passed in the blink of an eye. The 2-year agreement with the Yuanlu Great Sect was getting closer and closer. In the past 4 months, Lu Ming had refined 7 formation-breaking badges. Currently, Ji Hongqian's speed of acquiring aura was getting slower and slower. The time required was getting longer and longer. The remaining people were all enemies of the Ji clan. Thus it was extremely difficult to acquire their auras. Night fell. Lu Ming sat cross-legged on a piece of green rock and closed his eyes to cultivate. Between heaven and earth, there were wisps of invisible power of inscription, descending from the law of inscription, and being absorbed by Lu Ming. In Lu Ming's sea of consciousness, the mental flame gradually grew stronger. Suddenly, Lu Ming opened his eyes and glanced ahead. Here they are again. Lu Ming mumbled. 2 black figures were traveling silently in the formation. Apart from Lu Ming, no one else noticed them. The 2 figures were not Ji Hongqian, but someone else. 2 months ago, these 2 figures had secretly come to observe the energy meridian chain formation in the mountain. Behind them, Lu Ming was secretly observing them, and finally discovered them. The 2 people who were secretly observing them were actually experts from the Wang clan, one of the top 10 clans of the Southern Divine Palace. Lu Ming guessed that the Wang clan also wanted to refine the formation-breaking badges. Their goal was simple: to take Longqin away and keep the Chaos Essence token for themselves. After a while the 2 figures left. After the 2 figures left, another figure came. It was Ji Hongqian. This time Ji Hongqian brought the 8th aura. Lu Ming, there are 2 more. Ji Hongqian's face was slightly haggard. It was obvious that she had put in a lot of effort to acquire the auras of the top 10 clans. Lu Ming was quite touched. After Ji Hongqian left, Lu Ming continued to refine the formation-breaking badges. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. Ji Hongqian brought the 9th aura. It had been 5 months since Lu Ming entered the Southern Divine Palace. After receiving the auras, Lu Ming began to refine the formation-breaking badges. However, something unexpected took place that night. More than 10 figures were traveling in the darkness, heading deep into the mountain. Is that? Lu Ming was astounded. The dozen or so black shadows were all powerhouses. They were all rulers. One of them even possessed an immeasurable cultivation, a 4th-layer martial dominator realm expert. 4th-layer martial dominator realm cultivators are rare in the entire Southern Divine Palace. Could it be that the patriarch of the Wang clan is here in person? With so many experts from the Wang clan here, could it be that they have already refined 10 formation-breaking badges? Lu Ming made a guess secretly. Inscriptions appeared on his body, and he restrained his aura to the extreme. With a sway of his figure, he silently followed behind the dozen figures. As they arrived before the Chain Chi formation, the strongest expert waved his hand and took out 10 jade badges. As expected, he had refined 10 formation-breaking badges, which was faster than Lu Ming. The 10 formation-breaking medallions emitted a layer of light that enveloped the 10 or so black figures. The 10 or so black figures charged into the chain meridian formation without causing any ripples. Not long after, more than a dozen black shadows rushed into the cave and disappeared. Lu Ming frowned. Now that the plan had changed beyond his expectations, he could only take one step at a time. Not long after, The figures reappeared in the cave. But this time, there was an extra person among them. Long Chun. At one glance, Lu Ming saw that one of the dozen people was Long Chun. Long Chun's face was slightly pale, as he was being carried by one of the figures. It was obvious that Long Chun had suffered a lot during this period, but he was still determined. The figures carried Long Chun and swiftly passed through the formation, arriving at the outermost formation. As they were about to pass through the formation and escape, bang, 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 several powerful auras suddenly exploded in the air. There were more than 100 of them. Following this, more than 100 figures descended and surrounded the figures. Wang Sheng, you're trying to monopolize the chaotic badges. Do you think we don't know that you've found someone to refine the formation-breaking badges? A white-haired old man snapped coldly. Ha ha. The one with the strongest aura among the figures burst out laughing as he unleashed his true force, shattering the black robe around him, revealing his true appearance. It was the patriarch of the Wang clan, Wang Sheng. Chapter 1383. It seemed that the other families of the South God Palace had known that Wang Sheng wanted to keep the chaos token for himself. They had deliberately let Wang Sheng and the others in, so that they could catch them outside. Wang Sheng laughed as he looked around and said, "Keep it for yourself?" Long Chun was captured by the Wang family. It was the experts of the Wang family who searched Long Chun's soul and found out about the use of the chaos token. It was you who joined forces to force me to hand over Long Chun, so that we could take control of the chaos token together. Now, I'm just taking back what I deserve. Ridiculous, Wang Sheng. If we didn't take control of it together, do you think the Wang family alone could keep the chaos token? It would have been taken away by the other 3 divine palaces. One of the patriarchs shouted coldly, "Ha ha ha. I'd rather have the chaos token fall into the hands of the other 3 divine palaces than share it with you. You cowards, so what if you have the chaos token? You can only seal it and don't dare to use it. What's the use of the chaos token to get treasures in the divine ruins?" Wang Sheng sneered. "Nonsense, it's not the right time yet. Wang Sheng, hand over Long Chun. Otherwise, the Wang family will be removed from the top 10 families today." A white-haired old man shouted coldly. His aura was extremely shocking, and it pressed toward Wang Sheng. He was a peak 4th layer martial royal realm expert. Boom, boom. At the same time, the experts of the other families also burst out with powerful auras. Their auras merged and rushed toward Wang Sheng and the others like a storm. The dozen people of the Wang family were like a lonely boat in the waves, about to sink at any time. The commotion had naturally alarmed everyone. The inscriptionists guarding the periphery retreated far away and looked at all this in shock. Lu Ming was mixed in the crowd, waiting for an opportunity to make a move. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at the sky in the north. Over there, Lu Ming could sense a terrifying pressure. This pressure was coming at him at high speed. Rip. In the next moment, the space cracked and hundreds of figures stepped out of the crack. Each of them stood proudly in the sky and was a terrifying expert. Emperors. All of them were emperors. All of a sudden, over 100 rulers came. As soon as these sovereigns appeared, their auras burst out and pressed down on the people of Southern Divine Palace. Between heaven and earth the auras clashed, and there was a sound like muffled thunder. North Divine Palace. Wang Sheng, you colluded with North Divine Palace. Suddenly, several angry roars erupted from the Southern Divine Palace. The experts who arrived later were all from Divine North Palace. Haha, what do you mean by collusion? This is cooperation. Wang Sheng laughed. He took Long Chun and was about to rush out of the encirclement and join the people of Divine Palace North. Don't even think about it. Leave Long Chun behind. The Wang clan must be destroyed. The experts of South God Palace were enraged. They attacked together and launched terrifying attacks at Wang Sheng. Kill. The strong cultivators of the North Divine Palace didn't waste any time and attacked the strong cultivators of the South Divine Palace. South Divine Palace could only send out strong cultivators to block North Divine Palace. At the scene, hundreds of experts were engaged in a chaotic battle. Boom! In a moment of carelessness, a strand of energy struck the mountain below. The mountain directly exploded and turned into ashes. Oh no, run, run. The inscriptionists and the nearby martial artists who were below the martial emperor realm fled frantically. The scene of hundreds of martial emperors fighting together was too terrifying. Throughout the southern divine palace, dazzling lights lit up. Those were the inscriptions, forming inscription matrices. Swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, people from all over South Divine Palace rushed to the battlefield. They were all martial emperors. After all, this was the territory of South Divine Palace. There were many experts who rushed over to join them. Slowly, South Divine Palace gained the upper hand. Although North Divine Palace was the strongest among the 4 divine palaces, they couldn't send out all their forces. Facing South Divine Palace's crazy counterattack, they began to lose. In the sky, there was a rain of blood and wind. Corpses kept falling from the sky. They were all martial emperors' corpses. Boom, boom. Terrifying fluctuations spread out. It was a fight between level 4 martial emperors. It was extremely shocking. Wang Sheng, hand over Long Chen. A clan leader stared at Wang Sheng and fought with him. Jifeng, you want to stop me? Get lost. Wang Sheng exploded, and his body was covered in holy light. A sword of holy light forced Jifeng back. He took Long Chen and continued to attack, wanting to meet up with the people of Divine Palace North. However, Jifeng and his people blocked Wang Sheng's path. The other clan leaders of South Divine Palace led their men and fought with the experts of North Divine Palace. You guys take Long Chen and rush out of South Divine Palace. I will stop them, Wang Sheng ordered his men. At the same time, holy light spread out from his body. It was extremely dazzling and turned into countless holy light swords. In an instant, more than a dozen experts, including Jifeng, were enveloped. He wanted to use his strength alone to delay the opponent and let his men take Long Chen out of the encirclement. Among the 10 clan leaders of South Divine Palace, Wang Sheng's combat strength was ranked in the top 3. Jifeng roared and used all his strength. However, he couldn't break through Wang Sheng's blockade. Wang Sheng's men took Long Chen and were about to rush out. No one noticed that Long Chen's eyes were getting redder and redder. He looked ferocious. Roar. At that moment, Long Chen let out an angry roar. It didn't sound like a human's roar. It sounded more like an ancient giant beast that was awakening. An ancient dragonesque elephant as big as a mountain appeared above Long Chen's head. It emitted a shocking aura. Long Chen broke free from the person who had grabbed him and turned into an ancient dragonesque elephant. How did his cultivation recover? One of the emperors of the Wang family exclaimed. Long Chen's cultivation had originally been sealed. But now, how did it recover? They were stunned. The ancient dragonesque elephant roared, and an elephant leg that was like a pillar stepped on the body of a LV1 martial royal realm expert. The ruler was caught off guard and let out a blood-curdling scream. His body was crushed, and his body and soul were destroyed. A LV1 martial royal realm expert was killed in one move. In the distance, Lu Ming's eyes flickered. It seemed like Long Chen was mutating. Lu Ming saw clearly that Long Chen's cultivation should be at the 9th level of the spirit god realm. Although he had improved a lot since the selection, given Long Chen's combat ability, it was impossible for him to kill a martial artist at the 1st level of the martial emperor realm with one move. The reason might be that the ancient dragonesque elephant's bloodline of Dragon City was in an abnormal state. Its strength had improved greatly. After killing a LV1 martial royal realm expert, the ancient dragonesque elephant knocked the other 2 emperors back and fled into the distance. Don't even think about leaving. A LV3 martial royal realm expert of the Wang family threw a punch at the ancient dragonesque elephant. Bang! The ancient dragonesque elephant was knocked back, and its body exploded. Humph, how dare you resist? I'll cripple your cultivation. As long as you're alive, you can still use the chaos token. Chapter 1384. The 3rd layer martial dominator of the Wang clan summoned a giant palm and threw it at Long Chen, trying to grab him. Keep Long Chen here. At that instant, a 3rd layer martial royal realm expert from another clan of the Southern God Palace arrived and grabbed at Long Chen too. The 2 giant palms grabbed Long Chen at the same time. Bang! The terrifying force landed on Long Chen's body. Although Long Chen's ancient dragonesque elephant bloodline had improved his strength, it was still too far away from the third-layer martial royal realm. The ancient dragonesque elephant let out a roar before it collapsed, revealing Long Chen's true form. At that moment, Long Chen was extremely weak. His eyes were filled with a strong unwillingness. He was a heaven's favorite of his generation, yet he ended up being manipulated by others. How could he accept this? In the distance, Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he tried to figure out a way to save Long Chen. In the end, Lu Ming shook his head and decided not to make his move. There were too many experts here. There were more than 10 fourth-layer martial royal realm experts. If he were to make his move, even if he could take Long Chen by surprise, he would not be able to escape from the pursuit of more than 10 fourth-layer martial royal realm experts. Not only would he fail to save Long Chen, he would also lose his life. Take Long Chen away. The other experts lunged at Long Chen. Most of them were from the Northern God Palace. Once they took Long Chen away, they would be able to escape. Don't even think about it. The experts of the Southern God Palace would not give up so easily. They too lunged at Long Chen. Long Chen was at the center of the storm, as if he would be torn apart by the storm at any time. Buzz! At that instant, a strange ripple was emitted from the sky. The ripple was not too strong, but as soon as it appeared, it covered the entire Southern God Palace. Then a shocking scene occurred. The people of the Southern God Palace and the Northern God Palace who were engaged in a fierce battle, including the fourth-layer martial royal realm experts, were frozen in the air. Not only that, Lu Ming and the rest of the people of the Southern God Palace were frozen in place, unable to move. It was as if time had stopped at that instant. Lu Ming was incomparably shocked. He felt as if the space around him had solidified and wrapped around him, making it impossible for him to move. Even the spiritual flame in his sea of consciousness seemed to have solidified. The others were similar to Lu Ming. Their eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect that I would actually encounter such a good talent on this small, desolate island. Loud laughter came from the sky. A tall and sturdy old man, as strong as an elephant, leisurely walked through the air and arrived before Long Chen. Xiao Chen's beady eyes sized up Long Chen. You've actually awakened the archaic dragonesque elephant bloodline. You're suitable to be the successor of my divine elephant sect. What a waste of talent on this uncivilized island. The burly old man reached out and grabbed. A surge of energy entered Long Chen's body. In an instant, all of Long Chen's injuries healed. As for Long Chen, he had also regained his freedom. Long Chen was shocked as he looked at all the experts who were frozen in the air and could not move. His eyes were filled with shock. All of this was obviously the work of the burly old man. He did not see how the old man did it, but he had frozen so many experts in the air. Even the entire Southern Divine Palace was frozen in place. This kind of technique was simply unheard of. It was unbelievable. Kid, I'm the Supreme Elder of the Divine Elephant Sect in Yuan Continent. How about it? Take me as your master. Your bloodline can only be fully utilized in my Divine Elephant Sect. The burly old man said. Yuan Continent's Divine Elephant Sect? Long Chen was shocked. Without hesitation, he knelt down and said, Disciple Long Chen greets master. This was obviously an invincible figure. If he did not take him as his master now, when would he? As for the Divine Dragon Valley, Long Chen had heard that it had been destroyed. Haha, good. Get up. The burly old man was overjoyed. He looked up to the sky and laughed. His long beard fluttered. After a while he said, Disciple, let's go. Follow me back to Yuan Continent. After saying that, without waiting for Long Chen's reply, he waved his hand and disappeared with Long Chen. As soon as the old man left, the pressure disappeared, and everyone regained their ability to move. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as everyone regained their ability to move, Divine South Palace and Divine North Palace gathered together and looked at each other. Obviously, the burly old man was an almighty from Yuan Continent. His strength was unbelievably powerful. Moreover, their target Long Chen had been taken away by the old man, and he had even taken him as his disciple. It could be said that their efforts were in vain. Since Long Chun was gone, there was no need for them to continue fighting. Wang Sheng, get lost to Divine North Palace. Someone shouted coldly. Wang Sheng's face turned ugly. This time, the one who had suffered the greatest loss was Wang Sheng and the Wang family. Now that the Wang family and Divine South Palace had fallen out, they could only move to Divine North Palace. Originally, if Divine North Palace could capture Long Chun and enter the Divine Ruins with the Chaos Token, the Wang family would have a share of the treasures, and they could make up for it. But now, they had not captured Long Chun and had to move to Divine North Palace. That would be a great loss. After all, the Wang family had been in Divine South Palace for countless years and was one of the top 10 families. If they moved to Divine North Palace, they would not be able to enter the center of power of Divine North Palace. The loss of benefits was unimaginable. Wang Sheng was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Lu Ming, you must capture that Lu Ming to make up for my loss. Wang Sheng's eyes flashed with a ferocious look. After that, the people of Divine North Palace left, and the battle was over. In the crowd, Lu Ming retreated silently. This time, the matter was beyond his expectations. However, Long Chun was taken in as a disciple by the people of Yuanlu sect, which could be considered a great fortune. A day later, Lu Ming's second body reunited with his main body. Soon, the news that Long Chun had been taken in as a disciple by the Supreme Almighty of Yuanlu sect and had left the Divine Ruins had spread like wildfire. After Long Chun left, the remaining people naturally targeted Lu Ming. Now only Lu Ming had the primordial chaos token. The 4 great divine palaces and the experts of other continents had joined the search for Lu Ming. All kinds of methods were used. Even though Lu Ming had the illusion technique, he was almost found out. Another time, Lu Ming appeared to attract the attention of others and was besieged by a group of experts. After a great battle, he managed to break out of the encirclement. In an area filled with demonic qi, Lu Ming appeared and reunited with Xian Yinqing. Lu Ming, in a few months' time, there will be powerful people from the major sects of Yuanlu coming to pick us up. Although the Divine Dragon Valley has been destroyed, you can come with me to the Tianyu Demon sect. I don't think the people from the continent of God will dare to do anything to you. Xian Yinqing suggested. Lu Ming shook his head and said, although this is the case, I can protect myself. After all, I haven't joined the major sects of Yuanlu. I don't have any deterrence to the people of the Divine Ruins continent. After I leave, some people might attack the Divine Wilderness continent. Lu Ming, what do you plan to do? Chapter 1385. Kill. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Kill, I can only kill. Before I leave, I will kill everyone until they are terrified. It would be best if I could kill all the martial emperors who are above rank 3 martial royal realm. Only then can the divine region be safe, and I can go to Yuan continent with ease. The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes became colder and colder. In the end, it was filled with madness. Kill. Lu Ming wanted to kill all the martial emperors above LV3 martial royal realm in the godly ruins. If anyone heard this, they would think that he was crazy. There were many experts in the godly ruins. There were many LV4 martial royal realm experts. With Lu Ming's cultivation, how could he kill them? Even Xian Yinqing was shocked by Lu Ming's words. Now, I am no match for a LV4 martial royal realm expert. Therefore, I need to cultivate in seclusion. When the time comes, I will refine my second body and set up a killing formation. I might have a chance. Lu Ming said. He decided to take the risk. With his current combat strength, even if his main body and second body worked together, they would not be a match for a LV4 martial royal realm expert. He needed to increase his strength. After cultivating for a while, his pure spiritual body had reached 90% completion. He was only a step away from reaching 100% completion. Once his pure spiritual body reached 100% completion, its power would increase. At the same time, Lu Ming's strongest killing move was the chaotic flipping sky seal. During this time, Lu Ming had cultivated the 5 wills martial skills to the 6th highest level. Now Lu Ming had started to cultivate the chaotic flipping sky seal. Once he succeeded in cultivating the chaotic flipping sky seal, its power would be shocking. At that time, his second body would set up a killing formation in advance. He might be able to kill a LV4 Martial Royal Realm expert. Xian Yinqing knew that Lu Ming was a decisive person. Since he had decided he would do it, she did not say much. She decided to strengthen her cultivation and increase her strength so that she could help Lu Ming sooner. Now there were only 4 months left before the 2-year agreement with the Yuanlu Great Sect. After that, Lu Ming's main body entered the mountain and river diagram. The mountain and river diagram was put away by Xian Yinqing, who then turned around and entered the place filled with demonic qi. As for Ming Lian's second body, he had left. In the days that followed, Ming Lian's second body would occasionally appear to attract the attention of others. However, as soon as he appeared, he would disappear without a trace. He would hide his identity and go to a secret place to inscribe inscriptions and great killing formations. His main body, on the other hand, had been bitterly cultivating. Time passed day by day. In the second month of his seclusion, Xian Yinqing made a breakthrough in his cultivation and reached the Supreme Being level. Not long after Xian Yinqing's breakthrough, Dandan and Bubble woke up one after another. Moreover, when Dandan and Bubbles woke up, their auras were extremely shocking. All of them possessed the aura of Monarch Realm experts. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Dandan and Bubble were the real top 10 battle beasts. Their combat strength was extremely terrifying. Although they had just broken through to the Emperor Realm, their combat strength was unpredictable. When Dandan heard that a LV4 Martial Royal Realm expert was chasing after Lu Ming, it even said that it would kill him with one slap. It was extremely arrogant. Lu Ming didn't believe it. He fought with Dandan, but he found that he was no match for it at all. Haha, Lu Ming. Let's see how you can be arrogant in front of me in the future. You'd better listen to me obediently in the future. Dandan was complacent. It put its front paws behind its back and showed off its arrogance. Bam! In the next moment, it was kicked by Bubble and rolled on the ground dozens of times. You little one, how dare you attack me? Dandan's arrogance didn't last more than 3 seconds. It got up from the ground and glared at Bubble. Chirp chirp. Bubble stood on Lu Ming's shoulder and looked at Dandan with a pair of black eyes. The bubbles at the tip of its nose, one big and one small, seemed to be saying to Dandan, "Come and fight me if you dare." Dandan was furious, but Bubble was a time and space spirit mouse. It could control time and space. It couldn't do anything to Bubble. Chirp chirp, Bubble chirped and curled up its body, rolling up and down on Lu Ming's shoulder. Sigh. It seems that I should give all the spiritual medicines to Bubble in the future. It's so obedient. Lu Ming muttered. Dandan immediately stopped and said with a flattering smile, "Lu Ming, don't do that." No, I was just joking with you." Lu Ming ignored Dandan and looked into the distance. A wisp of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Then this time, let's play bigger. Dandan's combat strength was above his. It was definitely not weaker than a level 4 martial emperor. It might even be stronger. Coupled with the space-time concept of bubbles. No, it should be said that it was the wonders of the space-time domain. Lu Ming intended to go all out. After that, he continued to cultivate. Half a month before the arrival of the great emissary of the Yuanlu sect, Lu Ming finally mastered the chaotic sky-flipping seal. It's time to act. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Then, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing left the area and came to a vast lake. Previously, Ming Lian's second body had secretly carved a killing array near the lake. It had taken him several months to complete it. This killing array was passed down from a heavenly profound saint, and its power was terrifying. Given Ming Lian's second body's cultivation, it had taken him several months to complete it. This showed how powerful it was. It's time to spread the news, Lu Ming said in a low voice. Then, Ming Lian's second body stepped into the air and left. Not long after, an explosive piece of news spread across the continent of God. Someone had found the place where Lu Ming had been cultivating in seclusion. Lu Ming had been cultivating in seclusion in that place all along. When the news came out, the continent of God was in an uproar. Let's go and capture Lu Ming. This time, we can't let him escape. Seal that place. Experts from the South Divine Palace, North Divine Palace, East Divine Palace, West Divine Palace, and the Blood Yang continent, which was ranked second and third. Countless experts gathered at the lake where Lu Ming was. Lu Ming, who was sitting cross-legged on the lake, suddenly opened his eyes. Are they here? Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Rip. Hiss. The surrounding space continued to crack open, as one figure after another stepped out from the space. At the same time, terrifying auras spread out. Experts, all of them were experts. The weakest among them were martial emperors. There were more than 500 of them. That was a shocking number. There were more than 500 martial emperors. The 4 divine palaces had all come, along with some experts from other continents. Lu Ming was surrounded by people in all directions. The space seemed to have solidified. Lu Ming did not have the slightest chance to escape. Lu Ming, where are you going? Someone in the north spoke. It was Wang Sheng. Who said I was going to run? Lu Ming stood up and stood on the lake, looking around coldly. Most of the third-level martial emperors in the continent of God were here. Not running anymore? Hee. It seems that you know you can't run away. Wang Sheng sneered. Haha. Lu Ming sneered and ignored Wang Sheng. He swept his gaze across the crowd and said, You're here for the primordial chaos token, so that you can enter the ruins of God and obtain treasures. Chapter 1386. There are indeed countless treasures in the core of the ruins of God. Everyone's eyes lit up at Lu Ming's words. They were tempted. Among all the people here, only Lu Ming had entered the core of the ruins of God, and only he had the right to speak. The reason why my cultivation has progressed so quickly is because I obtained a supreme treasure in the core of the ruins of God. Lu Ming continued to speak, making everyone's hearts burn. Yes, Lu Ming was just a young man in the divine wilderness continent, but he was able to suppress all the heroes and stand at the peak of the younger generation in the divine wilderness continent. Now he was even more shocking. He could kill martial emperors like cutting melons and vegetables. This was too unbelievable. Everyone attributed all of this to the core of the ruins of God. It must be, Lu Ming must have obtained a treasure in the core of the ruins of God to achieve such results. Chaos Origin Token. Everyone stared at Lu Ming, wishing they could eat Lu Ming. However, for a moment, no one made a move. There were so many people here, and the 4 divine palaces had gathered. Everyone wanted the Chaos Origin Token, and they were all wary of each other. Who should I give the Chaos Origin Token to? How about this? I surrender and join one of your sides to help you enter the core of the ruins of God. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile as he spoke. The eyes of the people of the 4 divine palaces lit up. However, immediately, everyone was on guard against each other. If Lu Ming really joined one of their sides, he would definitely be attacked by the other 3 sides. Don't fall into this kid's trap. He's instigating us to attack first. A loud shout rang out. Lu Ming looked over, and found that the one who spoke was the Southern Divine Palace's suppressing marshal, Hai Pingtian. Hai Pingtian looked at Lu Ming with resentment. That's right, he wants us to fight so that he can find a chance to escape. The others also spoke. These people were all old monsters who had lived for thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. How could they not know what Lu Ming was thinking? I suggest that we take down Lu Ming first, cripple his cultivation, and then let the 4 celestial palaces jointly control him. In any case, there are ruins of God near the 4 celestial palaces. We can take turns using Lu Ming to explore the ruins of God. Wouldn't that work? Wang Sheng suggested. I think it's fine. I agree. The others also spoke one after another, reaching an agreement. Lu Ming, your little tricks are useless in front of us. You should just obediently surrender. This is your fate. Hai Pingtian sneered. Really? Lu Ming's expression remained calm, even though his plan to sow discord had failed. He glanced at Hai Pingtian and said, Then make a move. Come and take me. Hai Pingtian was no match for the chaotic sky-flipping seal, and was severely injured. Kill. At that instant, Ming Lian's second body took the opportunity to attack Hai Pingtian. The 10,000 formation illustration covered Hai Pingtian's figure, while 5 phoenix feather flying swords pierced Hai Pingtian's vital points. Hai Pingtian tried his best to defend himself, but as he had just been struck by the chaotic sky-flipping seal, his aura had yet to recover. His body was in great pain, as if it were being torn apart. Thus he could not exert any of his strength. He tried his best to defend himself, but his body was still penetrated by 2 phoenix feather flying swords, which almost slashed his body into pieces. Break! In the end, a blinding golden light burst out as one of Hai Pingtian's wings exploded into pieces, forming a terrifying storm that tore apart the seal of Ming Lian's second body. Hai Pingtian flew toward the crowd of the southern god's palace and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood with a pale face. The crowd inhaled deeply. A 4th-layer martial dominator had almost been killed by Lu Ming. It was too shocking. What a pity. Lu Ming let out a sigh. His strength was still lacking after all. Even with the chaotic sky-flipping seal, he had still failed to kill Hai Pingtian. If Hai Pingtian was more cautious next time, it would be more difficult to kill him. His strength was still lacking compared to the 4th-layer martial dominator realm. The consumption of true qi is terrifying. Lu Ming exclaimed. A huge pile of origin stones appeared. Lu Ming unleashed the 9 dragons' bloodline to devour the origin stones and refine them. The chaotic sky-flipping seal had consumed almost 50% of Lu Ming's true qi. In other words, with Lu Ming's true qi, he could only execute 2 chaotic sky-flipping seals before his true qi was depleted. What should we do now? One of the Dominator Realm cultivators asked. Even Hai Pingtian had failed to find out if Lu Ming had set up a deadly formation. What should they do next? Let's send a few more people to find out.